right, folks, good evening and a warm welcome to another date on the Journalist Hangout Show. I am Citizen Jones Hussein. Today on the program, President Buhari promises to end banditry and violent attacks very soon, just as the Chief of Army Staff vows to fish out bad soldiers unwilling to lead or follow. Trade Union Congress knocks federal government for 24.3 trillion naira debt, inflation and others. And later on, this one, fresh controversies surround approval for the Benin-ORE Road helicopter landing. I'm hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju, who had a crazy time getting to the studio. So I'm wondering what to do about traffic.
It's terrible.
Yeah. Don't go to court just yet.
You don't want me to talk?
No, not okay. Now.
Okay.
But let's meet and greet Kolawole Johnson. I haven't seen you in a while. How do you do? Welcome.
It's your traffic. I had a very terrible time getting here too.
Good for you.
In fact, I took a bike. Honestly.
Okay, the team is ready regardless. I hope you are. You know, for the umpteenth time, President Muhammadu Buhari has given the assurance that cases of banditry and violent attacks on innocent people around the country would be decisively dealt with. The cycle of freewheeling gangs that spread terror must be broken immediately and a more effective response pattern evolved. Meanwhile, Army Chief Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai has stated the willingness of the military high command to flush out officers and men without the desire to continue the anti-insurgency fight, while expressing a sense of pride for the noble roles and sacrifices of the soldiers in the face of daunting security challenges. Now, the general warned that those sitting on the fence, in a manner of speaking, in the campaign would be excused. At a time like this, this is like a chief of army staff on fire.
Well, the chief of army staff apparently frustrated, not necessarily on fire. Is frustrated that Boko Haram continues to embarrass Nigerian soldiers, and it has reached the point that you can no longer deny, neither can you even lie to people that you repelled a gang of insurgents who overran 4 army bases in 1 week and looted weapons. So you see that there is a difference in the way the military used to engage the populace. In the past, the military would tell us that, oh, we repelled that attack and will not admit setbacks. But these days, the military will rather keep quiet and not talk about the setback because they can see that it is not working. In places where army bases get overrun, there are people, there are residents of those places who would give the press an idea of what happened. So just sitting back and addressing press conferences or issuing press releases, simply saying that we repelled fighters that we didn't repel, as it happened in the case of Baga, when we lied that we repelled the enemy. The army has simply changed. The army would rather not talk about those setbacks because, look, the Boko Haram fighters are irritants and they embarrass the army whenever they get the opportunity. So the army chief was demonstrating his frustration recently when he said, look, that some of the commanders were not committed enough, and I thought that was wrong. He has reframed what he said and kind of claimed that he was misquoted, but there is actually a video of him saying that. But if it is saying now that he was misquoted, fine. I'm happy to hear him say that. It means that he regretted his earlier comment, because you don't make that kind of comment when you are in the middle of a serious war. What it means is that it will hurt the morale of the fighters, and some of them will not want to give their best for you. I saw a video of an attack by Boko Haram on our forces. The video was shot by a Nigerian soldier, you know, as they were evacuating the wounded from the scene. And I saw a soldier whose limb was shattered. So the moment I saw that soldier, and what the soldier said is that, I'm finished. The moment I saw that soldier, my mind went to what the Chief of Army Staff said, that how will this one feel now? Because his chief claimed that they were not giving their best, some commanders were being unprofessional and all that. And here is someone whose limb was shattered by the Boko Haram fighters. That's someone's father. That's someone's relation. Many soldiers have given their lives for Nigeria. Much more soldiers have paid with their lives than the Nigerian army is willing to admit. But fine. Some people said it's the right thing to do. But we must admit that our soldiers are making big sacrifices so that you and I can live in peace. So, and the sacrifices that they are making must not be diminished by anyone, not even by the Chief of Army Staff or the CNC or anybody, because it's not easy.
Okay.
It's not easy. We have to admit it. So this is the situation. I want to see improvement in strategy on the part of the armed forces to contain not just the irritants in Borno State who are harassing our people there and killed soldiers, killed the farmers. On the day the Chief of Army Staff went to see the governor of Borno to tell him that, look, our methods are working. That was the same day they killed 29 farmers. So I want to see improvement in strategy, which would deliver the right results. Because when it delivers the right results, honestly, this sound bites from the Chief of Army Staff, nobody will need to hear, to know that, yes, change is taking place.
Kola, because it is possible, these are not regular times. We talk about things like this happening in supposed peace times. So there must be a step B. I'm not speaking as a military expert, but as a journalist, just appreciating what's on the floor.
When this government came in, quite a number of people, myself inclusive, we invested a lot of hope in the fact that we have a general at the ends of our affair, and that would drastically, or that would show in a state of, say, maybe security. In 2015, it started like a play. At first, when he came in, we had some momentum. But then, we started having some dwindling fortune. In 2016, I remember President, or the former head of state, General Abubakar, gave some very terrific statistics. In 5 states, Taraba, Kaduna, Benue, and some 2 others, in 1 year, we lost about 2,500 people, 62,000 individuals displaced, about $13.7 billion lost in those 5 states to IGR. Now, it looked like a child's play then, but 4 years down the line, over 25,000 people killed across the country. Between last year, May, and this year, May, we've lost about 7,500. These are statistics that, you can't, I don't think this is one that you should sleep with. It shows that what we've been doing thus far, hasn't been working. We don't have the capacity to give the military a study of what to do. We don't even have that strategy. We keep saying for time that let us form the military the more. That is the truth. But what do you call, even the ones we have is being looted by the enemy. It's being looted by criminals who are not as coordinated and as strategic. They don't have the kind of military expertise that Nigerian military has.
Who are not supposed to be as coordinated.
Who are not supposed to be,
Who are not supposed to be
as coordinated and as strategic as our military. October 1st, right on this same program, I remember I raised some very, controversial point. I said that the men at the battlefront, those soldiers they are not weak because they don't want to fight. They are not weak because they are not patriotic to fight. They are weak because of how we are treating them. I gave two different instances.
Perhaps the tools of the trade.
Yes, of course. The tool is that they complain about the tool. In fact, they will complain about the tool to you every single time. And you wonder that can't we just prioritize? We don't need to do so many things at the same time. We know the areas of, the areas of attack. You can prioritize by having the level of equipment that would not just match the enemy, but take them out.
Yeah.
Now, I also gave the instance that the welfare of those people needs to be taken care of. I remember saying then that a time would come that you may not have soldiers to fight again, right on this same program, October 1st last year, barely how many months ago. Now, because those guys were complaining of the way we were treating them. If a soldier is fighting without food in his belly, what do you want him to do?
Suggest the military high command.
Number 3, let me mention this one. When a soldier dies at the battlefront, if a certain amount is approved for his family, what gets to them eventually
Yeah.
is almost nothing. So how do you want their morale to be boosted? They won't have the morale. Now, from these problems we have highlighted, it is easy to now profile solutions. Show more commitment to the welfare of these soldiers. If we approved $1 billion last year, what did we do with them?
I don't think they've received it.
Now, if they've not received it from that time till now, what are we doing as a nation? Yeah, so are we prioritizing our goals? What are we doing as a nation? Now, that should start calling to question our commitment to fight this war. Yeah. If money was approved and till date, they've not gotten it, so you ask yourself, are we actually committed to this battle?
He said he does not know where the money is.
He said so.
Because he didn't want to say this is the situation.
So you wonder, is it just to get it withdrawn from the Ministry of Finance that is the problem? Besides that, before we even approve $1 billion, do we not know what exactly we wanted to do with it? So why is it that we've not done the thing and the money, we're not even getting it?
Kola, this is not to say that the Nigerian military, armed forces, no, hold it. The armed forces are losing on all fronts. When they make gains, our job is to also highlight. I hear the other day, the Air Force hit the bull's eye by attacking their NEP center. Right, wrong? You got it?
It depends on
the Air Force.
The Air Force, yes, they hit the bullseye a number of times, but no one is sure whether it is exactly the nerve center that was hit. Because, you see, I've been involved in sourcing for information about this war. I've been so deeply involved. I've made friends among soldiers. I've lost sources within the army. I've lost them to this war, to simply believe what I'm told. You understand? So if someone says it's the nerve center that was hit, how do you verify? That is one war zone where it is extremely difficult to get information. It's extremely difficult to verify even the information that you are provided. And many times, information provided, you find out that it's actually not the truth. So I would rather err on the side of caution. I know that the Air Force, they are doing their best, you know. They hit these guys from time to time. But what you and I want to see is the extermination of these guys. Because we keep wasting so much, spending so much money buying bombs. These bombs are not cheap. The 2,500-pound bombs that the Nigerian Air Force drops on these guys, they are not cheap. But we still continue to see them. They still continue to crawl out of the woodworks to kill our soldiers. So what we want to see is these guys, see clearly that these guys have been defeated. We don't want to be reading that, soldiers killed here, because for the month of May, the media tracking group, Nigerian Mons, indicated that 22 soldiers were killed. Perhaps more than that got killed. And I know that when they are tracking June, It certainly will be higher than that because there were more attacks in June. As we move into the rainy season, you experience an escalation in Boko Haram attacks because the weeds become overgrown and it serves as a kind of foliage for them. They can hide, you know. So this is the situation. I can't say with certainty that the nerve center of those guys were hit. In fact, I do not believe that the nerve center was hit. Okay. This is an enemy that is constantly changing strategy, that is constantly on the move, because they know that the best way for them is to constantly on the move. If they don't move constantly, we will crush them. Yeah. And they don't want that to happen. So it's like we are not involved in a conventional warfare. Yeah. So you must expect anything.
And you're not dealing necessarily with a ragtag group. No.
No. See, when people say
also
that,
organized.
They are very organized. Do you know what shocked me? When Boko Haram invaded Baga in December last year, some of the equipment that were termed disused by the army and the navy, these boys sat down and repaired them, and we saw them, even one of those small tanks, we saw them driving one of them right inside the army base in Baga there. It was those videos that came out, and then many Nigerians saw clearly that, look, we did not repel these guys. And not only that.
Repair this?
Yes, that we did not repel the enemy. The enemy actually took the territory from us. So, and not only that, we also saw them, everywhere they go with their vulcanizers. So if they experience a burst tire, the vulcanizer will quickly fix the tire. And that happened in Baga. The video that they released, we saw the vulcanizers at work. So
it is still very difficult to infiltrate the ranks of the enemy.
No, they've made efforts in the past. And even Boko Haram got hold of some of the infiltrators and executed them. It's not as if we are not making effort. We get quality information sometimes, but we still haven't been able to crush the enemy because the area of operation is extensive. So it enables them to leave this place today, go to another place, so that they are not stagnant. And in our own case, you have army bases where soldiers are stationed. When they want to attack, they just go to that base and attack the army. So, but in their own case, they don't stay in one place. They are constantly moving. So this is the thing. We just have to double our efforts because this is a war that has embarrassed us enough.
Oh, yeah.
We just have to double our efforts, appeal to the army.
Embarrassed us so long for too long.
Yeah, so you know, I said this some time ago. I don't know if you were the anchor on duty, that Boko Haram now has its own special forces. And the special forces wear black. So
you don't say.
I'm telling you this. They have their own special forces. The same way Nigeria has special forces. It was our special forces that entered Baga for the first time and liberated the army base there. Okay. The headquarters of the multinational joint task force there. It was the Nigerian special forces that liberated that place.
So they had to reply.
So you see, to show you that this is an army that is ready, and an army that you can't continue to underrate. The successes that they are recording against the army by attacking army bases consistently should tell us that we can no longer be calling these guys ragtag. They have equipment, and they know how to use the equipment. And they steal equipment from us again and again and again.
All right. Kola, but there's a corollary to this story. And this is taking you to the National Assembly, where a member of the Assembly, specifically Senator Abdullahi Buhari of Oyo North, he's suggesting the capital punishment for, say, kidnapping, which we highlighted, and other violent and unrelated crimes. Capital punishment.
Okay, first, we're talking about solutions now, right?
Yeah.
Now, going back to 2015, when we had some level of successes, can we ask ourselves what we did then? So what happened thereafter? It appears to me that the more you look, the less you see. I hope it is not a case of, oh, as at that time when we were having that successes, I hope it did not become a case of, if we finish this war in good time, there may not be money for the boys. I hope it is not so. I am not saying it is so. Because soon that we left that momentum, things began to degenerate. And the earlier we catch up that momentum back, the better for us. Number two, on the herdsmen crisis you said. Before we get to...
No.
You said
there's a senator...
capital punishment for...
Senator Abdullahi Buhari.
Said capital punishment. That's where I'm going.
Kidnappers, yeah.
Kidnappers, yeah. Now, before we got to this stage in kidnapping, it didn't start now. It actually started sometimes back. But when it was picking momentum some few years back, we kept denying the reality.
Yeah.
That is where that was the genesis of our problem. Not really the kidnappers. So where do we need to start from now? Before the capital punishment, of course, I agree to that. Can we accept, the moment you do not accept the reality, you are not able to tackle it adequately?
Is kidnapping, in this case, a symptom?
It is not a symptom. It is part of the crisis we have.
Okay.
Maybe you can call it symptoms, maybe some few years back, when they were starting gradually in different places. Now, when we arrested Evans, the media also contributed to this. Honestly, we escalated, we made kidnapping appealing to people. Now, when Evans was arrested, and they started coming up with different stories, like Evans, the kidnapper, the family man, the philanthropist, the this, the that one, the billionaire. What did you think we were doing? We were actually making kidnapping appealing to people. Now, there are two ways you set agenda. The agenda setting theory has two angles to it from the media. Number one, you tell the news. Number two, you tell the people what to think about the news. The news was Evans, the kidnapper, has been arrested. So what should people think about the news? You started calling Evans, the kidnapper, a billionaire, a philanthropist, a family man. Or some people that were waiting somewhere. In strategic communication, they are built, of course, you're strengthening them with the belief that, no, this is a good way to come into. So we all contributed to this crisis. It is no longer a symptom. It is actually the result of what we failed to do at the right time. So now, if we need to address it holistically, capital punishment may be part of it, but today, capital punishment is no longer having the support base, amongst...
But do you practice it? When last did you execute criminals?
Well, you won't say me, or say the government. Do we practice it as a people? Now that, I don't know. But can we actually get to the root of it? Before kidnappers will kidnap people, waste their millions, and kill their victims. Back in my state in Ondo State, recently it's been a tale of war. Before one is over, the next is coming. I had a brother who was telling us that he had to join the negotiating team for 2 or 3 of those instances. Now, before we get there, can we now start stopping them? If we need the state police to operate this, if we need to devolve power more to the traditional rulers so that we can set up teams in our different localities so we can address it. Before we get to the law, Kola, can we please address it?
I had a reason for dropping that.
All right.
My state, Akwa Ibom, has criminalized kidnapping to the extent of making it a capital punishment.
That's great.
Nobody's in the dock.
Yet.
But kidnapping is reported.
But it has gone down in Akwa Ibom.
Relatively.
Yes, it has gone down because Akwa Ibom, especially before Akpabio ended his first term, kidnappings were very, very rampant. You know, there are states where we used to have kidnapping, frequently.
Remember Abia?
Even Delta, it has gone down. Bayelsa, it has gone down. You know, they once kidnapped the mother of the Bayelsa governor.
Oh, okay.
That it has gone down in Bayelsa too. There are some states where it has gone down, but we are seeing a spike in the southwest states. So the southwest governors have a lot to do. And we are seeing, yes, we are seeing a spike in Kaduna, which is now the capital, kidnap capital of Nigeria, you know. So Kaduna, Katsina, Zamfara, because the bandits, they not only steal cattle, they are also involved in kidnapping for ransom. They will pack many villagers and then tell their people to bring money. And then on the Gusau-Sokoto highway, they abduct travelers.
We're taking
and
it
then
in.
Also demand for ransom. So the police need to identify states where these guys are running riots and then find a way to solve the problem. I know that they are working hard. Operation Puff Harder has really been on top of his game. I wish that a few months back, when the former IG was lamenting that police cells were full of kidnappers, I wish that he came up with decisive action, the kind of action that the current IG is taking. Maybe kidnapping would not have reached this point. But it's something that we can defeat. The same way we defeated the criminal and bloodthirsty headsmen who are killing people for fun in Benue. Today, they no longer kill people in Benue. The same way that we were able to achieve that, we can achieve.
So essentially, it is possible.
It is possible.
If we set our minds to it.
Now, let me drop this. Two things I think will be
last comment on
our
this
solution here. First, can we stop playing politics with everything, including human lives? You know, remember we were tagged names when we were reporting this issue. At a time in this country, the biggest thing you can do to be the enemy of the government is to report insecurity issue. Why should it be painful to them? It is not your fault. You can't be sending people to kill your own people. So permit us to report the truth. You don't have to criminalize us. Now, because the government has that posture, the followers also tend to tag you wrongly, that you are enemies of the government. I mean, this is wrong.
This is,
number one.
It's a very childish thing.
Very childish. Number two, now we shouldn't wait until issues become crisis before we attend to them.
All right.
Sorry, just this last line. It is issues that are not properly attended to that becomes crisis. When this started lightly, we should have attended to this and finished this. Now it will cost us more money to finish, but we can finish.
All right, so we wish Senator Abdullahi Buhari Godspeed, as they say. Thankfully, he's a member of the National Assembly. So if he brings the bill forward, I imagine millions across the country will support it. Criminalize kidnapping to the extent of making it a capital offense. Okay then, let's move on. Still to come, Trade Union Congress, TUC, knocks federal government for 24.3 trillion naira debts, inflation and others. Please stay with us. Okay then, we keep it going. You know, in very lean times, governments across the world would borrow to be in business. There's a corresponding credibility angle to it, but when borrowing culture does not approximate to the rate of inflation, the anxiety sets in. The Trade Union Congress, TUC, is ill at ease with the country's debt profile. The union president, Comrade Boboy Kegama, let it be known that our debt outline, which stands at 24.3 trillion naira, must propel us into looking inwards for self-sufficiency. Borrowing to him was not a bad idea, but what to borrow for remains a big question. With inflation rates standing at between 11.28 and 11.44% for goods and services, the purchasing power of the everyday Nigerian bends him over backwards. Right.
The same thing you buy for 2 naira last year, you may be buying for probably 2 naira 50 kobo. So give it 5 years down the line. I mean, the same wage that you earn today would not be able to do anything again. As it stands right now in Nigeria, the biggest killing force we have is our debt service, is our debt servicing. Today, our debt service to revenue ratio is about 140% of the non-revenue. How do you survive with that? We heard, I mean, was it the Emir of Kano that said to us some few days back, like last week or thereabout, that today in Nigeria, 70% of our income goes into debt servicing. Again. Some folks were shouting, not really shouting, were complaining about the level of our borrowing. And we came up with different statistics to tell them that, no, you don't have to worry. But now that we have reasons to worry, what do? Incidentally, we are going to borrow more. As it stands today, even our budget for this year, we may not be able to do much if we do not borrow. Now, I am not saying that borrowing is bad, but can we please look inward? The president said, I think the president said some few weeks back that Nigeria is losing, that what we are losing to illicit financial flow can at least finance 62% of this year's budget. So if we have a window that can finance 62% of our budget, what are we doing? Can we then refocus our anti-corruption war to that area? Now, the second thing I think that is killing us, irrespective of what you see on ground, that borrowing seems to be the way we go, is the way we spend, is the way we award our contract.
State level.
Yes. Now, let me mention this very clearly. Something happened some few weeks back that was the Premium Times that reported it, that some few kilometers or the same contract in Nigeria that was going for $5-something billion was going for $2 billion in Ghana. And who are the contractors? The same Chinese company. So you ask yourself, what exactly is the problem? So one, if we do not solve our contract procuring process and we avoid this waste, that now a research says that in Nigeria, for every penny we spend, we do not get more than 20 or 25% value for it. I'll explain to you. For example, you award a road for 100 billion naira. First of all, that road should not even be awarded for more than, say, 40 or 50 billion naira. So half of it gone. Now, out of that 40 billion naira, the contractor himself will also want to make maximum profit. Because he has bribed you, you're not able to give him the oversight you should give him for him to deliver quality, value for what you have paid him. So at the end of the day, he may not give us more than 20 billion naira value. So out of the 100 billion that we have paid for that road, what we get is no more than 20 billion naira. At times, it is even lesser. That is why I keep shouting that the president will have nothing to lose if we put in place the National Procurement Council. Today, the Auditor General cannot even, to what extent can he go to audit the executive? They just give him orders. And today, auditing has gone beyond just looking at the papers.
By the way, it just struck me that you can actually audit the presidency.
Yes, but can they do that?
Okay, because the law allows it.
Allows him. In fact, the first independent office we should have in this country is that auditing place. Now, if you buy things, if you supply some slippers at the ministry, I mean, you have the auditor will come to inspect. Okay, is it to specification? Now, today, are the auditors trained enough to go audit the roads? Do they have the quality? Now, the World Bank invested some money in some few areas of governance in this country, including forensic auditing. What exactly are we doing with those who went for that training? That is why I keep saying that until we solve our procurement process, we will keep borrowing because at times we don't have business borrowing. If we can maximize what we have and ensure that what should be done for 1 naira is done for 1 naira, we won't need to borrow more.
Yeah, Jide.
Well, I agree absolutely with the TUC president, the outgoing TUC president, Kagama, that something has to be done about the rising indebtedness of Nigeria to its creditors. He said something that I found interesting. He said, if we cannot bequeath wealth to our children, why burden them with debts? Because debts is like postponing the evil day because someone has to pay. And it doesn't matter how long it takes. Someone must pay. I was watching a BBC documentary during this week about Ethiopia. In Addis Ababa, you see infrastructure projects executed thanks to the Chinese. But the country is already heavily indebted to the Chinese, and the people are worried, and they were expressing their worry on camera that if things go on in this manner, we'll be in trouble. So we can't continue to pile on debt, because at the end of the day, the debt will not allow us to find enough money to fix infrastructure. If 70% of your revenue goes to debt servicing, where are you going to find enough money even to pay salaries? I was reading the Ogun State governor claiming that he got across to his friends in the banks, and they had to give him money to pay, give him loan, 7 billion to pay salaries. You can't be taking loans to pay salaries. If you take
It's
loans...
not quite 2 months there.
Yeah, no, just, that's the first salary that I will pay. If you will need to take loans, use those loans for infrastructure. You can't take loans and use those loans to pay salaries. It's unheard of. It's unacceptable. So if we allow this to go on, because look, I've seen, I remember reading a news item where the vice president had to send a letter to the Senate requesting for requesting to be allowed to borrow as little as $1.5 billion. Just $1.5 billion. We had to write to the Senate to allow us to go and take that loan. We keep piling these loans. We can barely do anything without these loans. And we have subsidy. We are spending about 1.5 trillion every year
on subsidy.
On subsidy. And we still do not think that is a problem.
Do we call it a subsidy?
No, you know, I call it part scam, part subsidy, because out of this 1.5 trillion, a lot of money goes into ghost importation, because I refuse to agree that we consume as much as 50 million liters a day.
Yeah.
I refuse to agree, because if we were not consuming, what has happened? What has changed?
The whole country.
Yes. We cannot. The American Energy Agency projects that we do between 24 to 32 million liters a day. The bulk, some of this goes into smuggling.
Okay.
So people from other countries, you know, our neighbors, this subsidized PMS goes to service other countries. And we do not think that this is a big problem.
This is outside of outright theft.
As I said the other day, if you stop the subsidy thing, because whether we like it or not, we will still eventually have to stop it. If we stop it, the states, each of those states will have between 30 to 40 billion extra. If you stop it today, between now and December, they will have extra 30 to 40 billion.
Coming from the center?
Depending on the state anyway.
Really?
Yes, because look, all they need to do, instead of paying subsidy, let them have more money from the distributable revenue.
That's it.
So that's what it means. It's possible. This is something that we had now and worked out. And then from that money, you can then palliative measures.
Yeah.
You can buy hundreds and hundreds of buses. Because the greater pain that people feel is, oh, I'm going to Oshodi. How much will it cost? How much will I pay to get to Oshodi? Once you have, and those buses, just let people take them for free. Those states will have the funds to do it, the funds to pay, to fuel those vehicles, the fund to pay the staff out of this extra 40 billion.
As I said, Kola, the worst form of cowardice is knowing the right thing to do and not refusing to do it. I was going to say this. I'm not taking whatever you have on your mind.
Don't worry.
We borrow because the creditor knows that we have the potential to pay, you know. are we looking at those potentialities? Now, the TUC president is saying revenues generated from NIPOST, NNPC, NIMASA.
NNPC has been declaring losses. Leave that.
No, wait. I'm just saying, an NPA can make us sit pretty.
No, not pretty. They said can take out some of this.
And borrow a lot less than we're doing.
Yeah, now, it is not as though these agencies are not giving us revenue. But in spite of what they bring to us, we are still borrowing. So the question is that if he is saying
it's not enough.
that these ones can take care of some things and we should borrow less, so why are we borrowing more? That is the question. And the major reason is due to corruption.
Yeah.
Now, most of these monies that we waste a lot of times, I call it waste, because when you do not spend judiciously, if you run the government as a private company, you can't be declaring losses. I also run a small company.
And still be in business.
I mean, you heard me, making some shouts before we started this program. And I was, no, you can't continually go on this lane of losses.
The figures
the
figures you were shouting at really scared me. It's not for the viewer. From my elementary economics, it is said, fix electricity, and a lot more than 2/3 of our problems would have been solved. Fix electricity. It's not difficult. Okay, not unsurprising, the social media was agog with different perspectives and misleading, if you like, commentaries on a rare helicopter landing on the Benin-ORE highway on Wednesday. Fresh facts are emerging from the sensational event. Tropical Arctic Logistics Limited, the chopper company at the center of it all, insists it got permission to embark on the controversial flight. TAL's Chief Operating Officer, Femi Adeni, claims his company got the necessary approval to undertake the flight. But a source close to the Nigerian Airports Management Authority, NAMA, says yes, the chopper was cleared to take off, but never to land on a highway. But let's tell you this. The chopper was flying doctors who were to attend to an urgent medical situation. Let's share that moment with you. Just a minute. Watch this.
We're not on the highway to pick up the passenger because we're almost stuck here. Oh no, let him go. Look at
So you think you are watching a movie in the making. Not a bad thing, but where I'm a little miffed is the controversies arising from the event we just saw. And pictures don't tell lies.
Yeah, because it's an unusual thing for a chopper to land in the center of the road. The suspicion that people have is that the chopper company, yes, got the all clear to go and evacuate, do medical evacuation at a particular town, not far from where that happened, but that they didn't get the mandate to land in the middle of the road. That is not an ideal situation, and that's why it was strange to people.
Yeah.
And they said they are investigating. I'm sure that the investigation will show that they didn't get the clearance to land in the middle of the road.
On a busy day.
Yes, the people had been stuck in traffic, as I heard, for more than 2.5 hours, and vehicles that decided to even drive against traffic, they were also stuck. you know, so they were in the middle of nowhere. And then this chopper came. According to sources, the victim had suffered cardiac arrest and needed emergency response to his ailment, just to stabilize him and save his life. So it's not a bad thing to do this kind of medical evacuation, since the goal was simply to save a life. But to land in the middle of the road is quite unusual, and that is why people are trying to find out whether indeed the chopper company, the aviation company concerned, indeed got the all clear to land on the center of the road. Because you could land on a field or something, but not...
Since the chopper has this vertical takeoff, so that cannot be anything to worry over. But Kola, this is, when you hear things like, I said it last week, oh, Nigeria know they carry last, you know, doing ugly things when the right thing to do is there.
In this case, what would have been the right thing to do?
The right thing, get the clear, look, but you heard Jide.
No, because the question is that, would they have cleared them to land on the road? I mean, at the middle of the road. That may be no. But look at that scenario.
But he landed.
They needed to rescue someone. See, we watch, there are times we watch some national broadcasts in America, and you see, you know, their security forces doing some few things.
Yeah.
If what we have to do to save lives, I mean...
It's an emergency.
It's an emergency, of course. And see, please, I'm sorry for this. This is not an ideal situation. You don't expect ideal things all through.
Okay, was the pilot sure of where he was going?
No. If he wasn't sure of where he was going, perhaps he was tracing those that were calling him. Number one. Number two, if he found them in that place and they were stuck and they couldn't leave, so where would he have landed? It wasn't a situation whereby there was a field that they could go to. If he needed to, if that was the best situation, I think there is no there is no pilot that would be as crazy to land at the middle of the road if there was alternatives. Let's be realistic. Yeah. If they went there for fun, for jamboree, we can take them on. But they went there to save lives.
That's happening first of its, you know, first time in our history.
Nigeria.
It's a little strange. Meaning it could have been tidier. You talked about Oyibo country. You know, arrangements would have been put in place. Look, we are expecting this. There's an emergency. Do you know, a lot of people would have thought something unusual was happening.
Now, if there was no arrangement,
yeah,
you wouldn't see the space they left for them. There was an arrangement. If there was no arrangement, of course.
Kola, if a chopper is coming down, obviously if a chopper is coming down, oh, come on, there you will give way.
You see, if the pilot needed to land to avoid a crash, maybe they are running out of aviation fuel or something, he could do an emergency landing.
Yeah, that's
he could do an emergency landing on a highway. It's permitted. In fact, American roads are usually constructed so wide that even in wartime, if their airports get bombed, the runways get bombed, they could land on those 10-lane highways and all that. So, but it is not something that you do just like that.
Every time.
It has to be an emergency landing.
Yeah.
That is the point. Because it's not the first time that an aircraft will land on a road, no. But not to pick a passenger stuck in traffic. Because this is the story that we are hearing. It may well be that that was not even exactly what happened. Because all that they need is, look, ask for permission. We want to go and evacuate someone somewhere.
It even raises another angle to it. Kola, I'm sure will know this.
In fact,
where I'm going to, maybe now one big.
I was about saying something. In fact, I was about saying this, that, you know, the reason I've been laughing all along is this. If it turned out that they didn't go there to pick anyone on any medical emergency, it would be a disaster in this nation. And for me, this is my trait. They might have actually gone there to pick one big man who is too big to stay there. And the best they could come up with as a narrative to say the situation is to say we went to pick some fellows, on medical emergency.
That's my suspicion.
We keep saying that open your books. Can they give us the name of this person on this medical emergency?
No, the thing is, it is up to the press to go and speak with
investigate
the NAMA and other people to at least unmask the person who was airlifted from that area, because chances are that we've not been told the true story.
The whole truth.
Somebody may have, after all, look, under $10,000, you can get.
Yeah.
It's not even up to that. It's not even up to that.
That's why, because I don't know exactly what it is, and I would rather not.
$4,000
but again,
so you can get
some $5,000.
You can get a chopper to come to take you to your destination with under $10,000.
But the aviation,
if someone needed to sign a contract, and that contract had to be signed within 1 hour or so, and the person bringing the contract papers gets stuck in traffic, and you are looking at how much you are going to lose.
Oh boy!
And you have the means. He will simply call the people concerned and say, "I'm in the middle of nowhere, somewhere in Ore. I'm going to bring out a yellow flag
I don't
so
want
that
to
you
tell,
know it's me."
I don't want to tell the viewer to forgive Jide. He's thinking like any of us here. But I'm saying the case is still under investigation.
That's how it's done. At the end of the day, we'll forget this story. Nobody will talk about it anymore.
All right. Kolawole Johnson, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Somebody told me when I complained, he said, go and stop speaking grammar and go and make money.
I was going to say so.
When you have the money, you can do something worse than that.
That was his reply.
All right, Jide, so a Friday is here.
I'm wondering whether they actually used an ambulance because I had someone who was stuck in that traffic. I'm going to ask the question whether there was an ambulance that was used to take the person who suffered cardiac arrest.
The investigation is still
That's why I've been laughing all along.
All right. We must go. It's a Friday. Take care of yourself. But that's all on the program this evening. If you missed this, you may watch the program on other platforms we'll show you on the screen, and on youtube.com/TVC. The feedback channel remains the same. I am Citizen Jones Hussein. Enjoy your weekend. Bye-bye now.